On this one, you have an m in all of these. So I am going to set this equal to 0. I'm going to factor the m out. So I'm going to have m to the 4th plus 15m squared minus 16. So then I'm going to make these two factors equal to 0. So m equals 0, and then m to the 4th plus 15m squared minus 16 equals 0. So this I'm going to try to factor using a times c, which is negative 16, and then 15, two numbers that multiply to negative 16 and add up to 15. Well, 16 plus a negative 1. Multiply those two, you get a negative 16. Add those two, you get 15. So that's going to be m plus m squared plus 16. M squared minus 1 equals 0. So 2 and 2, they add up to a 4. Okay? And so now we set each factor equal to 0. So m squared plus 16 equals 0. And m squared minus 1 equals 0. So now I'm going to solve for m. Okay, so I'm going to subtract the 16 right here. So that's going to be m squared equals negative 16. Take the square root, so that's plus or minus square root of negative 16. Those cancel. So that's going to be m is equal to plus or minus 4i. It's imaginary because there's a negative inside the square root. This is plus 1, so that's m squared equals 1. Take the square root of m squared, plus or minus. So those cancel, that's going to be m plus 1. So here you should have 5 answers. You have 0, you have positive negative 1, positive 1, and then positive 4i, and negative 4i. So in this quintic function, you have 1, 2, 3 real and 2 imaginary solutions. Okay, so these are all your answers to this function. Okay, so then this is x cubed plus 8 equals 0. It's a cubic, sum of cubes, so that's going to be x cubed plus 2 cubed equals 0. So now I'm going to factor this. That's going to be using the sum of cubes, which is what you just learned a little bit ago. So x plus 2 times x squared minus x times 2 plus 2 squared equals 0. So then this is x plus 2 times x squared minus 2x plus 4 equals 0. Okay, so then we have x plus 2 equal to 0, and we have x squared minus 2x plus 4 equals 0. So we're going to subtract the 2 here, and so x is equal to negative 2. Now this one, you can only factor this using the quadratic formula or completing the square. You can only solve this. You can't factor this. Can't be factored. So either you use the quadratic formula or completing the square. Since we've been doing completing the square, I'm going to do that first. So I'm going to have x squared minus 2x equals negative 4. We always leave some room right here. So we're going to take the middle term, negative 2 divided by 2, and square it. So negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1, squared is just 1. So we're adding a 1 here, and we're adding a 1 here. So then we're going to have x minus, use the middle term, 1 squared. Take the square root of 1 is just 1. Negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. Okay, so now we have the quantity squared equals negative 3. So that means I can take the square root on each side. So what I'm gonna do right here, oops. So I'm gonna take the square root of x minus 1 squared is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative 3. Remember, that's why we want to complete the square. So then x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus I square root of 3. So the negative inside makes it imaginary. Then we add a 1. So that's going to be x equals 1 plus or minus I square root of 3. So remember, we need three answers. We have negative 2, and then we have 1 plus I square root of 3. That's an answer, and then 1 minus I square root 3. So that's three answers. And this is an x cubed, so you should have three answers. Okay, go ahead and